haunted journey. The faded neon sign of the Rusty Spur Motel flickered erratically against the inky blackness of the desert night. Its vacancy sign, a cruel joke in the desolate landscape, mocked our predicament. My brother, Ethan, slammed the car door shut, the hollow clang echoing in the stillness. We were stranded, miles from civilization, on a forgotten stretch of road locals whispered about in hushed tones. The Devil's Spine. The reason for our detour was simple, a shortcut. We were on a road trip from Denver to San Francisco, eager to escape the drudgery of our routine lives. Ethan, ever the adventurous one, had stumbled upon a dusty map promising a scenic route that shaved hours off the journey. Now, with a flat tire and a dying phone signal, the scenic route felt more like a cruel prank by fate. A shiver danced down my spine despite the desert heat. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional chirp of a desert cricket. The air itself felt heavy, charged with an unseen tension. Ethan, usually brimming with bravado, looked pale and drawn. "Maybe there's a payphone at the motel," he said, his voice strained. We trudged across the cracked asphalt, the Rusty Spur looming like a skeletal monster against the star-dusted sky. The windows were dark, the paint peeling in grotesque patches. A sense of foreboding gnawed at me, but the thought of spending the night on the roadside was even more chilling. The motel door creaked open with a rusty groan. The lobby was shrouded in darkness, the air thick with the smell of dust and something else, a faint metallic tang like blood long dried. We fumbled for the light switch, a single bulb flickering to life, revealing a scene from a forgotten nightmare. Cobwebs draped the peeling wallpaper like macabre tapestries. A single, threadbare rocking chair swayed back and forth in an empty corner, as if propelled by an unseen hand. A dusty register sat on the counter, its pages yellowed with age. "Hello," Ethan called out, his voice echoing eerily in the vast emptiness. No answer, just the creak of the rocking chair, growing louder, faster. We exchanged a worried glance. Suddenly, a voice rasped from the shadows. "Looking for a room?" An old man emerged from behind the counter, his face a web of wrinkles etched beneath a greasy Stetson. His eyes, rheumy and bloodshot, held an unsettling glint. We need a phone," I stammered. "And maybe a tow truck." The man chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Phones don't work out here, city slicker. And tow trucks? Don't bother. This ain't exactly AAA territory." Panic clawed at my throat. Stranded, with a car on its last leg, in a creepy motel run by a potentially deranged old man. It wasn't the ideal road trip pit stop. But I began to protest. The old man cut me off with a wave of his bony hand. "You folks look tired. Room 13 is all I got left. Take it or leave it." Room 13. The number sent a tremor of unease through me. But with no other options, we reluctantly agreed. The room was a match for the lobby, dusty, sparsely furnished, and strangely cold despite the desert heat. A single, flickering bulb cast long, menacing shadows on the walls. On the nightstand, a worn copy of Edgar Allan Poe's Tales lay open, a bookmark holding its place at a story titled The Telltale Heart. Ethan, ever the pragmatist, dismissed it as coincidence. I wasn't so sure. Sleep, however, was a luxury we couldn't afford. We took turns watching, the oppressive silence punctuated by the creaking floorboards and our own ragged breathing. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon, I drifted off to sleep. A dream, or perhaps something more, jolted me awake. I stood on the Devil's Spine, the road stretching endlessly into the desert. A chilling wind howled, carrying with it the faint sound of screams. Then, I saw it, a shadowy figure, its form shifting and swirling like smoke. It turned its head towards me, and in its dark, soulless eyes, I saw a flicker of recognition. I woke with a gasp, bathed in sweat. Ethan sat beside me, his face etched with concern. "You okay?" he asked. I recounted the dream, my voice trembling. "It felt so real," I whispered. Ethan, ever the skeptic, scoffed. "Just a dream, sis. Relax." But his forced bravado couldn't mask the worry in his eyes. We decided to explore the area, hoping to find a signal. Our exploration of the surrounding area yielded nothing but more unnerving discoveries. The desolate landscape stretched endlessly in all directions, dotted with the skeletal remains of twisted cacti and bleached animal bones. The air shimmered with heat, distorting the horizon into a rippling mirage. We found no cell service, no signs of life, just an unsettling emptiness that pressed in on us like a physical weight. As the sun climbed higher, the heat became oppressive. We stumbled back to the Rusty Spur, throats parched and spirits low. The old man, ever present, watched us with an unsettling amusement. "You look like you could use a drink," he rasped, holding up a bottle of amber liquid. "Something special I keep for weary travelers." We hesitated. Desperation gnawed at us, but caution urged restraint. The man's offer seemed more like a sinister invitation than a gesture of hospitality. "Where'd you get that?" Ethan finally asked, his voice hoarse. The old man's smile turned into a grotesque leer. "Found it out on the spine," he cackled, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "Lost souls leave all sorts of things behind." His words sent chills down my spine. Lost souls? On the devil's spine? The implication hung heavy in the air, thick with unspoken dread. "We don't need a drink," I said, my voice tight. The old man shrugged, his smile fading. "Suit yourselves. But remember, folks, water ain't as easy to come by out here as you might think." His words held a veiled threat. We retreated to our room, the silence now suffocating. The dream from earlier replayed in my mind, more vivid than ever. The figure, the screams, the feeling of being watched. Nightfall descended, cloaking the desert in an inky blackness. The wind picked up, moaning like a banshee around the motel's skeletal frame. The creaking floorboards grew louder, more insistent, accompanied by the unsettling sensation of unseen eyes watching us from the shadows. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. My heart hammered against my ribs as I scrambled out of bed. Ethan was already on his feet, fear etched on his face. We crept out into the hallway, the scream dying down into a choked whimper. The source of the sound came from the room next door. We exchanged a worried glance. Against our better judgment, fueled by a morbid curiosity and a flicker of desperate hope that someone else might be stranded here, we approached the door. The rusty doorknob turned easily, revealing a scene that turned my blood to ice. The room was in disarray, furniture overturned, clothes strewn across the floor. On the bed lay a man, his face contorted in a mask of terror. His eyes were wide open, vacant, reflecting a bottomless pit of horror. Terror clawed at my throat. We stumbled back from the room, gasping for breath. The old man stood behind us, a chilling smile playing on his lips. "Looks like someone else got lost on the spine," he rasped. "Care to tell me, why are you still here?" His words, devoid of empathy, were a stark reminder of our precarious situation. We were trapped, at the mercy of this deranged hermit and whatever sinister forces haunted the devil's spine. Ethan, fueled by a desperate rage, lunged at the old man, but he was faster, effortlessly dodging the attack. He shoved Ethan back with surprising strength, sending him sprawling on the floor. "Don't be stupid, boy," he said, his voice low and menacing. "There's only one way out of here, and it ain't pretty." Before we could react, he grabbed a rusty key from behind the counter and unlocked a back door we hadn't noticed before. It led out into a narrow alleyway, shrouded in darkness. "Follow me," he rasped, his voice a chilling whisper. "But remember, curiosity killed the cat, and on the devil's spine it might just kill you too." Hesitation warred with desperation. Could this be our escape? Or was it a trap leading to a fate worse than being stranded? We exchanged a silent look, the terror in our eyes mirrored. There was no other choice. We had to follow him. Stepping into the alley, we were plunged into a darkness so thick it was almost tangible. The only sound was the rasping of the old man's breath as he led us deeper into the inky abyss. We walked for what felt like eternity, the oppressive silence broken only by the pounding of our hearts. Then we saw it, a faint glow flickering in the distance. As we got closer, the glow revealed an abandoned gas station, its pump's skeletal fingers reaching for the starless sky. But what truly sent shivers down our spines wasn't the derelict structure. It was the gathering. A group of figures huddled around a crackling fire in the station's dusty lot, their faces obscured by the flickering flames. They wore tattered clothes and emanated an aura of despair so thick it hung heavy in the air. The old man approached them, chuckling with a glee that sent a wave of nausea washing over me. He spoke to them in a language that sounded like the scraping of bones on stone. The figures responded in guttural growls, their eyes fixing on us with a predatory hunger. "These are the lost souls," the old man rasped, turning to us with a twisted grin. "They never found their way off the spine, but maybe you can help them find theirs." Before we could even scream, the figures lunged. They were fast, possessed with a feral strength that belied their emaciated forms. We stumbled back, desperately fending them off with anything we could grab: a rusted wrench from the gas station's wreckage, a loose brick. Ethan cried out in pain, a figure sinking its teeth into his arm. I swung the wrench wildly, connecting with a skull with a sickening crunch. The figure howled in rage, but didn't back down. Fear spurred our movements, but it wasn't enough. One by one, we were overwhelmed. I felt a searing pain in my leg, a bite that sent a jolt of fiery agony through my body. Panic surged through me, hot and blinding. Ethan, his face a bloody mask, fought like a cornered animal. But he was outnumbered, his movements sluggish from blood loss. I watched in horror as he was dragged away by the figures, his screams swallowed by the desert night. Tears streamed down my face as the figures descended upon me. The last thing I saw was the old man's face, twisted with a cruel amusement, before the darkness claimed me. I woke to a searing pain in my leg and the harsh glare of the desert sun. My body was battered, my clothes torn. I was strapped to an old wooden table in the middle of the gas station lot. The fire from the night before had died down to embers, casting grotesque shadows on the cracked asphalt. Around me, the figures milled about, their eyes gleaming with a macabre hunger. The old man stood before me, a wicked grin stretched across his face. He held a rusty knife, its blade glinting ominously in the sunlight. "Looks like you'll be joining my collection after all," he rasped. "You might not be lost souls, but you'll serve as a grim reminder for the next unlucky travelers who wander onto the devil's spine." My scream died in the harsh desert air, swallowed by the vast emptiness that stretched out in all directions. There was no escape, no help coming. I was doomed to become another lost soul, another offering to the darkness that consumed this cursed stretch of road. The old man raised the knife, his laughter echoing across the desolate landscape. As the blade descended, a chilling certainty settled over me. The devil's spine wasn't just a road. It was a place where hope died, and nightmares became a terrifying reality.